Hello and welcome to another episode from CBD Genie. My name is Matt.
And I'm Jonathan.
And today we have a very special interview with Ben from CBD Brothers.
Yeah, as you may not know, CBD Brothers, one of the oldest established CBD brands. They actually have their own farm over in Guernsey where they're growing the cannabis plants. So it's exciting to learn their whole journey from seed to shelf.
So stay tuned and here we go.
Well, hi. So, Ben, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
It's good to see you. Okay, so we sort of dive into a little conversation with you and find out a bit more about yourself and CBD Brothers and where you're at and where you're going,
Cool.
and where you've come from, and all that. So, can you sort of start things off by giving us a sort of rundown as to how and why you started CBD Brothers?
CBD Brothers was started in my garage and as a concept with to basically get I enjoy cannabis. I've always enjoyed cannabis, both recreational and medicinally. I used to be involved in palliative care, and I was involved in various levels of care for about 20 years. Palliative being the most influential in the decision to be where I am now. I was using a lot of people I was dealing with were using cannabis as pain relief, spasm management, for a variety of different reasons, just to basically make the end a little bit happier or a little bit more shiny than what it was. So I kind of got into learning how to do it, or wanting to understand why it was working in the way that it was from there. I was also quite keen on ensuring that the products that people were getting were up to a certain standard. Where we come from in the Suffolk countryside, it's mainly kids on BMXs that were, at the time, mainly kids on BMXs that were banging out this stuff. And with the best intent and will in the world, they were not that quite good at the quality. You were either getting hash with lumps of plastic in it. I don't know if any of you guys have ever seen that before back in the day. The old soap bar used to have a thread of plastic going through it, which was obviously there to up the weight a little bit. But the quality was absolutely shockingly bad. Or the weed would be something that's come off a boat from somewhere that's been pushed together and is quite frankly disgusting. I figured I could do it better myself, and I could, and I would, and I was able to kind of help people, support people, find and source better products. Through that, I then started investigating oils and old school methods of using herbs, going from a herbal remedy point of view, and trying to get the cannabinoids into various different products. Coconut oil. My first thing I ever sold was balm, with some coconut balm, which I'd infused with cannabis oil, which I used to give to my elderly neighbours to help them do their roses in their gardens. I used to have quite a good reputation in my village for helping people relieve arthritic pain and get movement back in certain places. I also used to make my cul-de-sac smell very strongly of a cannabis and coconut. By cooking up vats.
So you weren't hard to find then. You weren't hard to find then.
No, it was always quite kind of comical that you'd smell me coming before, or you'd smell where my house was before you'd actually see it. Subtlety at that point in time was never something I was very good at. At one point, I think I had about a 12-foot cannabis plant growing in my garden, which was not the smartest move, but at the same time, I figured what I was doing was quite important and I needed the resources to be able to do the investigations and do what I do. Obviously, I wouldn't do that now because that's illegal and I don't need to. But at the time when I was young and dumb, it seemed like the best way of doing it. And to be fair, it worked. I had one of the first products I sold was a balm that was to a local health remedy shop in mine. And from there, I just escalated. I just started looking into it. I just started investigating what was good, how it was working. And kind of built on it from there, really. And then from there we went from there to, where we are now.
It's quite an origin story compared to a lot of other people that have got into it for all sorts of different reasons. But you've got almost the makings of a movie there, I think.
Yeah. We've done...
I think what's... What I was going to say, Ben, is obviously what's interesting, isn't it? Is that you have, got very much that sort of experimental mindset, isn't it? And because when there was no one else really sort of doing it, there's no big businesses behind it. It is a question of actually really doing it from a grassroots and having that ideas of it's great. What can we do with it? How can we use it?
When we started it, I think we were one of the first companies to start doing it. The extracts in the oils, bringing it in. I think there might have been two others that were kind of on sort of there, but because we were doing it in the way that we were doing it, we were making a lot more waves and a lot more issues and attracting a lot more attention. I mean, we would have stories in the Daily Mail that are still traceable now and find about people with sciatica, people who we've helped through various different reasons through our compassion program. Yeah, we've always tried to push it out a little bit. Sometimes not for the best thing in the best way. We've kind of put, especially when it was the early days with THC content. There was some very precarious days with that, and also just getting the news out there and trying to get people to understand that this is a genuine bona fide thing that is very helpful. It's not a placebo. It's not a one-off. It's not the latest health fad, which it developed into. This is a genuine herbal medicine that needs to be taken seriously. And we would find ways of getting those into the mainstream and through ease of use, through capsules and things like that. We were the first to do quite a lot of things, which
you've been, as you kind of described there, you've been very much at the pointy end of the CBD market. Have you had much involvement with the FSA and any sort of government authorities?
Oh God, yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, we've seen both sides of the spectrum. I mean, we had a home office. We applied for a home office license to grow hemp on our field in Elmswell. We had our local home office advisor, a bloke called Robert and Privet, come out, and he looked almost shocked when he saw what was going on with the extent of what was happening. About 7 years ago, us, like a lot of other CBD companies, when they started noticing what was going on, we received a package that was this thick from the MHRA, which had gone through all of our products, all of our blogs, all of the newspapers, everything else, everything that had ever been published about us, everything we'd ever published. And they'd got they must have gone through about 20 different highlighters to tell us what we weren't allowed to say. So we had all of this that we had to remove from the website and redo everything. But off the back of that, instead of kind of retreating into this kind of, anti-them, anti-us, we went down to the MHRA offices. We discussed things with them. We talked to them about what we could and couldn't do. And they pointed us in the direction where we know what we're doing is on, or was on the cusp of kind of a new thing, but also kind of a grey area. And we were very much intent on turning that grey into a very clear, bright area where people would understand what was going on and were able to make a conscious decision about how they wanted to take, when they wanted to take it. So whenever we've been approached by agencies, from the FSA to the Home Office to the MHRA, we've always built on that. And that's kind of the reason why we were able to get into and discuss the way we did with the Guernsey government. I mean, we sat down at a table with all of the elected members of the official, from the Guernsey's chief minister to their health and social minister, and all of these people. And we put a presentation to them which explained the benefits of multiple levels of cannabis, with the economic one being the main one, because that is what basically drives governments and things like that, is the economic value of something. Yes, it can help people, but how much money are we going to make from it? How much money is it going to save us, and all of this?
So that's fantastic, Ben. Do you want to sort of take the conversation on a bit and talk to us a little bit more about the range of products that you've actually got within CBD Brothers today?
I mean, our range is varies. We've got your standard oils, we've got your capsules, we've got patches, we do balms, but because we're also in a medicinal cannabis workspace, we have flowers that we're available from our clinics in Guernsey. We are able to prescribe, and we are in the space where we're opening up a clinic in the UK in about 3 to 6 months' time, if all goes well. I mean, we're very much, the space we're in at the moment is we're moving into a fully medicinal area and space. I mean, CBD, we want to incorporate it with high THC and make our own blends, as I've said to you before. So yeah, but we have a range of products.
Presumably, the experience you have in Guernsey and working with the Guernsey government has informed a lot about how you're dealing with the UK government.
Yeah, I mean, it's given us a nice and a friendly introduction to government workings without having to deal with the almost, and I mean no disrespect to this, the bureaucracy that goes on in the Home Office, because it is, It's just faceless people that have a list of things that they do, and they're very strict about what they do. There's no leeway there. There's no working with them. Sorry, that's not right. We work with them, but they have a very strict way that things have to be done. And whereas in the Guernsey government, we were very instrumental in helping rewrite legislation. We were helping rewrite the licensing. So we actually, as a company, I wrote the license that was then put into play for people to allow to grow medicinal cannabis on the island. So yeah, I mean, it's been an interesting and very knowledge. It's given us a lot to work with and understanding. But then we're finding good stuff going on with the UK Home Office as well.
I was just going to say it is in terms of. I mean, obviously, you've got a huge sort of depth of experience and been involved in all sorts of areas, sort of less visible, if you like, to the consumer. But
Yeah.
if from a consumer's perspective, what do you think is, more unique about CBD Brothers in terms of what you bring to consumers?
We do everything. I mean, I don't know if there's many other companies that are I think maybe British cannabis potentially, but that are growing, producing, extracting, and doing everything for themselves. I mean, we've always done that. I mean, we have labs where we do testing. We're going through ISO accreditation at the moment. We have a production company that makes everything ourselves. We are the genuine seed to bottle company, and we started off in my garage. It's not we haven't gone out and sought loads of investment. We haven't gone and taken someone else's product and then rebadged it or repackaged it as our own. With our core extracts and oils, it's all done by us. No one else does it. As far as I know, no one else does this. I mean, there's a lot of we do it all from start to finish. What you see is what you get.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. So really, and so in terms of, obviously great backstory in terms of where things are at and the product range. Looking ahead probably to the next 12 months, what do you see are going to be some of probably the big changes or that you hope for in the coming 12 months in that CBD space and for CBD Brothers?
Well, I'm not confident that the CBD industry is going to be here long term, if I'm honest with you. I think the CBD industry will be partially consumed by or absorbed by the medicinal cannabis industry. And I think that the restriction and novel foods, although a good thing, is potentially going to cut off a lot of the innovation and supply chain, which is going to restrict the amount of internal UK development that can go on. The industry in itself is almost dominated by outside companies that come in from Europe and specifically Canada. I'm not 100% sure that the CBD industry in a whole will be any as big or as driving movement as what they claim it's going to be in 12 months' time. I'd like to think it is because Sorry?
That is quite a prediction. You're kind of. I guess what you're saying there is in the same way that people can't make their own paracetamol tablets in their kitchen or in their local warehouse to sell. It's controlled. It's controlled by Big Pharma. I mean, you're kind of implying that CBD is going to be absorbed by Big Pharma.
I think I'm going to be honest and say I'm not a big fan of pointing the finger at Big Pharma. I think they get a lot of a lot of stuff. I mean, there are elements there. We've all seen the Pfizer things. We've all seen the nonsense that they've gone through. Everyone has issues that they go through. But to be fair, there's not an industry in the world that hasn't started off and had to break boundaries or break rules to get to where it is. And as long as it's not done in a way that harms the greater population or anyone, then although that has happened in the Big Pharma thing. What I'm saying is I think that the medicinal cannabis is going to grow. I know I contradict sometimes. But it is what it is, isn't it? But the medicinal cannabis industry is going to grow. I think as that grows, the CBD industry is going to reduce. I think they're more accessible to cannabis extracts of varying different ways through unlicensed specials and indeed special and through licensed products. I think you're going to see a reduction in it, a natural reduction in it. People who take CBD are going to perhaps move off of that and go once they can start getting it on prescriptions and things like that, because it makes it feel a bit better.
Right. Okay, so you're really saying it's more almost market driven rather than industry driven. It's going to be.
The trouble is with the novel foods, and I'm not again. the trouble is with the novel foods, and the other restrictions that are being put in place. Although they're essential and necessary, it stifles innovation within our own industry, within our country, because we haven't got the license and the ability to grow and extract in the UK. We can grow, but we have to leave the flowers dead in the fields. By taking that core starting point away, that stops people like us up to a certain point, because that's why we're in Guernsey, but also other companies that take what they do very seriously and our job very seriously. That stops us being able to develop a homegrown industry that will then allow us to seek our own funding and then develop new products, develop new ways of doing things, develop new things. Now, we can import from Holland, we can import from Germany, but we're outsourcing again the main key product, which kind of leaves us at the mercy of whoever's growing at the time. So, yeah. Mm. I'm often getting told off for saying I feel that the CBD industry is coming to an end, and I don't think by my other directors, they're like, stop saying that, it's not going to happen. But I just feel that we should be focusing more on building up what we've got with the ability of medicinal cannabis and putting more pressure on that. There's a whole gang of people out there that CBD doesn't work for, but medicinal cannabis does. And if we can get everything kind of turned over and switched in that direction, then it makes it more accessible for everyone.
It sounds to me you're being, your colleagues and people are saying to you, God, don't tell people the CBD market's going to vanish. But to me, I'm not kind of hearing that. I said to someone else, with the CBD market as it is today, having only been made legal in 2017, etc., and moving forward, we're seeing the emergence of a market going from conception through to sort of infancy, teenage years to adulthood in a very compressed period of time, whereas most industries have been built up over, say, a 100-year period.
Yeah.
And we're seeing something happen very, very, very fast. So rather than thinking it's the CBD market that's disappearing, we are very quickly seeing the different phases towards what the end product and end market is going to be, which, as you quite rightly say, is logically medicinal cannabis.
I think
it's heading that. It's taken 30 years. We'd be having this conversation.
I 100% agree with what you're saying, but in regards to specifically the CBD market, the balloon has blown up so quickly, so fast. As with the cannabis industry, which is why it's taking its time now, we haven't got the wall shored up. We haven't got the integrity of the balloon that we need to maintain it. Yeah. And quite frankly, there's more people out there with pins waiting to pop it through their own ignorance, through their own sort of necessity to do it. Then I think that's going to basically be its own kind of downfall up to a certain point. And I'm sounding so depressive about the whole thing. I think it's exciting. It's just for the exact reason you've said. I think it's pushing us through into a different area where we need to be focused on.
Yeah, what's probably happening is it's moving too far. The transitions from one phase to the next phase are taking place too quickly. Yeah. It's not allowing everything to bed in properly and develop and evolve. So it's looking a bit sort of ragged in that respect. But
yeah, I think we're seeing a classic example of that with the medicinal cannabis industry, with the recent announcement by the MHRA and Home Office to finally start taking the thing seriously. They're now going to be working together to do the licensing. So instead of getting a license in principle, so you can go to them and say, this is completely off topic, by the way, lads, so I apologise for that. Well, sort of off topic. You've got me on a rant. What they've done is they've basically said, instead of coming to us with a license in principle, we want you to have the facility built. We want all the QCs in place. We want all the ISO accreditation in place, and then we'll decide whether you're going to give you a license or not. Which, on some respects, stifles the industry, but on the other side of it, it only allows those with serious intention to get involved in it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does.
Well, you've got to put some sort of barriers in there, isn't it? I mean, let's say, because it's you've got to have something to weed stuff out, if nothing else. As, pardon the pun.
So, yeah, one of the saddest things about the industry as it gets bigger, especially with the stock exchange getting involved and all of that, there's a lot of bullshit about. There's a lot of blagging. There's a lot of nonsense. I've read people's investment decks, and I know for a fact they're lying. And all that does is that creates an inherent mistrust in an industry that is booming. And because of that, that's why you're seeing companies up to a point like Love Hemp, classically, and I can say this because it's publicised, they made a little bit of nonsense up on their investment funds. So that's why they got suspended from the stock exchange. Now, that reflects badly on the rest of us in the same way that when someone like we've done things in the past where we've made medicinal claims, that kind of reflects badly on the rest of the industry as well. So we're all taking it in turns to sort of push the boundaries and do things what we want to do. But when we're at the point now where we are, where it's becoming such a key point, we can't really afford to mess up too badly. Does that make sense? We're all old men in this industry now. We're all, like you say, we're at adulthood. We know what we can do. We know what we can't do. So to be tightening up your investment deck to try and get a few extra £1 million in, knowing full well you can't back that up with any evidence, you're setting yourself up to fail, which is the most stupid thing in the world, basically.
Yeah, a number of people we've spoken to have likened the whole CBD story so far to like the Wild West. It's been I don't know, guns at dawn and things.
That's a fantastic analogy. That is a fantastic. Everyone's just been riding around doing whatever they want to do, and finally someone's come along. The sheriff have come along and decided to step up and step in. But we've had the other issues. We've had so many self-appointed sheriffs over the time. You know, we've had the CGA, bunch of whatever you want to call them. I don't know who's even governing them now. Are they still a thing? We've got the other like Canna Pros, and we've got the other people. I mean, it's been a nightmare. Everyone wanted to be self-appointed sheriff and get paid for it.
So in terms of what you've kind of sort of predicted, really, for the next 12 months, 24 months, maybe. Within that, where do you actually see you being placed? CBD Brothers, we will reclaim our market share, and for the CBD market, we're pushing out further a bit forward with that, with the intention of gaining enough finance to finish off the completion for the amount of money we need for the next side. I see CBD being a minor sideline in our company while we move fully into pharmaceuticals and biopharmaceuticals with both CBD cannabinoids and a little bit in psilocybin as well. We're very much pushing towards those two at the moment, so we're flipping now.
Yeah, fantastic! Right, you've got an incredible journey, and obviously, a vision that extends far beyond CBD. So, we look forward to.
I think we'll come back to you in a little while and have another conversation.
Catch up with you probably into next year. And see what the picture looks like then. Well,
it definitely needs a 6-month follow-up. I'm thinking maybe a 3-month because I think it's an unfolding story with you.
I desperately hope that my 12-month prediction is wrong, and I suspect it might extend a little bit further. But the natural progression of this plant and the way it's being legislated at the moment is to go from where we are now, and then we're moving into medicinal, and then from medicinal, the CBD industry will naturally fall by its side.
Okay. Excellent.
Right.
Wow.
Well,
good
Ben,
to finish on that.
Thank you for your comments. Absolutely fantastic. We'll catch up with you again in a few months and further that story.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.